Hi, I'm Michelle Rupp, host of AFMC TV. Thank you for joining us. AFMC TV is a place to consider as a healthcare hub. AFMC is a healthcare nonprofit. We specialize in making our lives, businesses, and communities healthy. This space was created to share information with the community. You'll hear from healthcare experts on a broad range of topics. Medical topics like immunizations and telehealth, to lifestyle topics like strengthening a routine or keeping your family hydrated. Our promise to you is to keep you informed in a digital way, providing useful information to you and your family. Again, thank you for joining us and welcome to AFMC TV. About the vaccine. In the next hour,
very hard to play. This video will provide ideas and also make sure
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of AFMC TV. We're so happy that you're joining us today. Joining me this morning is Mary Gupton. She is one of the employees here at AFMC. And Mary, you have a rather extensive background when it comes to diabetes and being certified to teach diabetes to those of us out in the community. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Michelle?
Doing well, thank you. So November, we know, is Diabetes Awareness Month. And of course, you and I are going to specifically be talking about type 2 diabetes. And there is so much that we can talk about. And I kind of want to approach this from the standpoint, we know that 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, a diagnosis of diabetes did not generally bode well. Those outcomes generally were not pleasant ones. But we are in 2021, and would you agree that things have changed a little?
I would definitely agree because if I got a diagnosis of diabetes, sometime back, the first thing I would think is more drastic measures. And we don't want individuals to think that, especially when they've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. This is something that can be prevented. It can be either delayed. And it all comes from just adopting healthy lifestyle changes.
So if you receive that diagnosis, that you in fact have diabetes, I would think maybe the first thing you need to do is just kind of take a deep breath.
Correct.
And then how do we begin to attack that? How do we begin to either slow down that progression, or can we reverse it once you've received that diagnosis?
Yeah. Once you receive a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, I'm hoping that the provider at that point would, direct you to someone that can put you in a self-management class, because the whole thing is managing how your lifestyle is, your eating habits. Are you moving? Are you exercising? So typically, if I receive the diagnosis, I want to make sure that I ask my healthcare provider, is there someone that can talk to me about this diagnosis? And is there a way that I can prevent it from progressing? If you check my number and it's above the 7% of, from that A1C, how can I decrease that and not have that diagnosis? So moving from that standpoint and asking those questions to try to get the you want correct people, not Googling it like most people say, don't Google, but, asking your healthcare provider to, direct you to someone that can explain to you more on how you can make those changes and improve your blood sugar levels. How can I get them back to normal? What is the normal range? Ask about your numbers, because that's the key thing. You want to make sure you maintain the numbers that can decrease the progression of diabetes. We have over 800,000 adults in Arkansas that has been diagnosed with pre-diabetes.
Over 800,000?
800,000.
With
pre-diabetes. So
wow.
You're looking at that number, it needs to be decreased, and it can be just through lifestyle changes. So when we know that we got numbers that's going to push us up to at that level of diabetes, then, hey, we need to start making some changes.
So let's take a step or two back. If you are one of the 800,000 with a pre-diabetes diagnosis, I would think that means start making changes now. You don't want to cross over.
Right, right. And we're talking about someone that has an A1C, and an A1C is a blood test that your healthcare providers do in the office that measures you from a 2 to 3 month period, because you want to make sure you get a good range to see, what's going on. Because, I mean, I could have just had a donut and a high energy drink or something before I went into the office. So you're not going to get diagnosed that first time that you have, you're out of that percentage. But they put it, that's why they do A1C, so they can do that long range to just see what is it running within those time periods. And if you're seeing something between 5.7 and 6.5, you're in that pre-diabetes stage, and you want to make sure that you get that number below 5.7%. So to do that, here again, ask questions, ask your provider, okay, what are some things that I can do to make that change? And one of them will be, diet has a huge part of it, of what we consume. A lot of people don't want to hear that. And it's not saying to put you on a diet. Nobody wants to be put on a diet, okay? But it's teaching you or showing you how you can better prepare the foods that you love. So when I'm preparing a meal, even for my husband, I don't fix him anything special. I fix the meal that's going to be prepared for both of us. Because guess what? We all need some type of balanced meal. We need balanced meals in our daily meal planning is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we absolutely.
Colorful plate, as we say.
A balanced meals, a balanced life, and a balanced home. That's what we need. That's what we need. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And real quickly, is there a particular website that we might direct people to if they just want to learn some basic education, if they don't have that relationship with their healthcare provider? What's a website we could point them to?
You can always go to your American Diabetes Association website. The CDC also has a lot of information, but the American Diabetes Association website can even route you to self-management programs that are available in your state. So that's definitely something.
Very well said. Mary Gupton, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
JJ Mayo joins us now to talk a little more about diabetes. And JJ, we're going to talk about type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people that when we just throw the term out diabetes, they don't really understand the fact that there are really more than one. There are 3 general types, type 1, type 2, and then gestational diabetes. And type 1 really is where the person has no control over it. It's an autoimmune disease where the pancreas doesn't secrete insulin at all. And insulin is what is going to help take up the blood, the sugar from the blood, right? And so type 1 is where the pancreas doesn't produce insulin at all. Type 2 is what we tend to focus on because it's more lifestyle related. And it's really due to eating excess carbohydrate. And then the third type is gestational diabetes, which happens when ladies are pregnant and during pregnancy.
So if you've received a type 2 diabetes diagnosis at whatever stage you are in life and whatever those numbers are, is that final or through diet and exercise, can you reverse that?
You can actually, and a lot of this is really controversial, but I have done it. I've helped people. I'll give you an example. I had a client named was Sudi who came to me, went to her doctor, and her doctor was going to start her on metformin, is what they usually use, right? The first frontline medicine for diabetes. And she says, no, I know this guy. So I worked with Sudi for like less than 12 weeks. And so when she went back to her doctor to test her hemoglobin A1C, to test her numbers, the doctor, he went into her room and looked at the numbers and he's like, wait a minute, I got to go. He went back to the front desk because he thought he had picked up the wrong chart because Sudi's numbers had gone back to normal blood sugar. And she had lost like 30 pounds at the end of this 12 weeks. And so she had really started to turn things around. And the way she did that was to control her carbohydrate. Because think about this, for people that have type 2 diabetes, if the problem is that your blood sugars are high, right? If they're high, shouldn't the solution be to lower the sugar that you're eating and you're consuming? A lot of people don't talk like that. And so they see it as a destiny and as a way that's just going to progressively get worse over time. And it will if you continue to take the medicine, because it's like you start on the medicine and then eventually down the road, they're going to want you to get on insulin. And so the best thing to do is to take a handle on it and do the best you can to improve that blood sugar and do it and do it through food.
Okay. Well, I know you and Jamie are going to be sharing a recipe with us. And so we're definitely looking forward to that coming up.
I'm excited about it. It's a low carb recipe, so good for type 2 diabetes.
Perfect. All right, JJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, what's happening? We are back for another cooking demo. Today's recipe is a good one. We love this one. I say that about all of these, I think. But today we're doing soup. And this is probably one of the most requested recipes that you get. It's queso soup. This is super easy to make. And so let's dive into it. You ready?
I am. So there are kind of two ways to make the queso soup. And the irony is there's not actually cheese in the soup, like what we think of cheese. But we're going to make it today with chicken and sausage. And you can also make it with hamburger meat and breakfast sausage, which is phenomenal. Both they're winners. We just happen to have some leftover chicken and sausage, smoked sausage that we wanted to use.
Use it if you got it.
Use it if you got it. You want to tilt it?
Oh yeah, so let's do that. I'll tilt this down real quick. I may have to move the little pan over. I'll move this over just a little bit so they can see.
So this isn't what we normally would cook our soups in, but it works great for camera. So
it
that's
does,
what we're gonna
it
do.
does, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to start by adding some water and some bouillon cubes, right?
Yep,
Two.
so it asks, the recipe calls, put it on in. No, put it on in.
Is it going to burn like this?
No, it's not gonna burn. Just gonna
I thought we were going to have an explosion or something.
So it calls for chicken broth, but I don't have any chicken broth, so we're just using bouillon cubes. And y'all know these are cheap. I have a bucket of them, and it's 1 cube to 1 cup of water. So I have 2 cups of water and 2 cubes.
Bouillon cubes. And you're going to pour some more in there?
Just a little bit. Yep.
Okay. And it's going to take a minute for these to kind of melt.
So the next
Dissolve.
thing we would add is going to be their cream cheese. And I just like to make sure that these are a little dissolved before we add the cream cheese. Now I've had the cream cheese sitting out at room temperature, and y'all think about this. This is already going to be low carb because the bouillon's not going to have any carbs. Cream cheese is not. We are going to do some like rotel.
Diced tomatoes. Yeah, you could use rotel. It actually calls for rotel, but we're using these diced tomatoes, jalapenos in there too.
Yeah,
So.
because we like.
Well, and because that's what we have, right? There's some heavy cream in this recipe also.
Heavy cream acts more as a thickener.
And then we're going to put some taco seasoning in.
And just know that the recipe, and we can share this with you, but it's going to be, I'm using just half the package. This can get really salty if you use too much of that taco seasoning. Or you could use a low sodium, but I still would recommend just doing half a packet. Okay, so our bouillon is
Starting to dissolve. It's fighting us though.
it's just chunky. That's okay.
You ready for the cream cheese?
You bet.
Here it goes. Okay, melt away. And again, like Jamie said, we're not cooking this in what we would normally do. And so it's going to be a little bit messier, I guess.
Maybe.
Maybe. It would be if I was.
It would
if
be.
I had this little stir stick there.
That's a whisk.
Whisk, that's right. I had the whisk. If I had the whisk, I would be whisking things all over the place. But I'm gonna let you handle that. So what do you want to put in next? The diced tomatoes or the? Ooh, see, there you go. Watch out.
You can do the diced tomatoes next, that's fine. It's just until your cream cheese is kind of dissolved, it's hard to stir because everything gets stuck in your whisk. But y'all, this comes together very quickly, you'll see. And as this, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so once we get all the ingredients in, how long do you let it cook?
15, 20 minutes.
Okay. You good with that? Or are we ready?
We'll just keep moving on.
Okay, I'll do the...
So the recipe calls for 2 cans, but they're smaller, so we're going to use 1 bigger can.
Splatter everywhere. Okay. Head it to the recycle bin.
This starts to smell like Rotel cheese dip.
Which smells good.
So taco seasoning. This is a good one for kids to do too, because you're really just throwing stuff in the pot. So Jay's continuing to kind of break the chunks up of the little ones of the cream cheese. We're doing 1/2 cup of heavy cream.
And that's really going to thicken it up, isn't it?
Yep,
Did you say that already?
I did. That's good advice.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of cups of chicken. Now, this chicken, we put it in a crock pot a couple of days ago, and I just had leftover chicken, and I didn't want it to ruin, and I didn't want to freeze it. So I thought, well, this will be great. This will be an easy soup. It's cold outside. We're in Snowmageddon right now.
Okay.
So, and then I have some smoked sausage. I probably have about a cup of smoked sausage. So I'm gonna put that in there. And then from this point, this is when you can decide, then it's gonna thicken up a little bit, but you have a couple of options. One, you could add more chicken. You could add more sausage if you want. I have a little bit of garlic powder that I like, a little
She
garlic
likes garlic powder and garlic salt.
So I'm just gonna do probably 1/2 teaspoon. And it's done. I mean, that just needs to warm through and sit for 10 or 15 minutes, and you got dinner ready.
Yep. Perfect.
So that is your easy queso soup. And remember, if you wanted to do hamburger meat,
Where you want to move
way
this?
down here.
Oh, well, you want to move it up? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna put a little bit more chicken in there.
How's that?
Oh, that's good. That's gonna be really good.
Okay.
So that's it, y'all. That easy queso soup. Again, use what you have. We had the leftover chicken. We had some
Diced tomatoes instead of Rotel.
cream cheese.
Make it your own.
Yep, that's it. So this would be great paired with a little salad, or you could do the bread in a cup. You
Yep.
could do a loaf of bread, the cheesy bread. You could make some cheese toast. You could toast, have a piece of toast with some butter on it. But all those go really well with this soup.
Sounds good. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. We'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, y'all.
That sure looks good. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you back here next Wednesday for more AFMC TV.